Of the many stories in the Ward House, that of General Artemas Ward is perhaps the most well-known. In the annals of the American Revolution, Artemas Ward is remembered for being the commander of the Patriot troops during the siege of Boston in 1775, and thus the first commander-in-chief of the American Revolution. Born in 1727, Artemas Ward was the sixth child of Nahum and Martha Ward, prominent members of the then-new community of Shrewsbury. Artemas studied at Harvard College, and, after graduating, he returned to Shrewsbury in 1750 with his wife Sarah Trowbridge, and began running the general store at the center of town. Artemas had been in the military since 1743, but with the outbreak of the French and Indian War, he found himself swiftly promoted, becoming a colonel by 1758, the same year in which Artemas saw the failed British assault on French-held Fort Ticonderoga. After the French and Indian War, he became an outspoken and respected proponent of Patriot positions during the tax crises of the 1760s, and his actions as a representative in the colonial legislature increased Ward's prestige among Massachusetts patriots. A month after the battles of Lexington and Concord, Artemas took the oath of Commander-in-Chief of the Patriot Army around Boston. This took him from leading the local militia to commanding the Patriot troops in Massachusetts for several weeks in 1775. In that eventful period, he directed the Battle of Bunker Hill and the fortification of Dorchester Heights. Later that year, Artemas Ward handed over command of these forces to George Washington, but continued to report directly to Washington until 1777, serving as Major General and second in command. After his military service, Artemas retired to his home in Shrewsbury and continued to be active in local and national politics. In the last 20 years of his life, he was a judge, an elected representative, a delegate to the Continental Congress, the Speaker of the Massachusetts House in the 1780s, and between 1791 and 1795, he was a U.S. representative from the state of Massachusetts. President John Adams would describe Ward as universally esteemed, beloved, and confided in by his army and country. Artemas's own descendant, Andrew Ward, describes Artemas similarly.
He was a steadfast and wonderful person, and somebody who put together and was loved by his troops and by his militia in Worcester and by the people who knew him.
Artemas Ward died at his home in Shrewsbury in 1800, but the house and farm remained in the Ward family. And that family was a large one. Artemas and his wife Sarah raised 8 children, and their descendants continue to be part of the Shrewsbury and Harvard communities. In a way, General Ward continues to be an active presence as well. The house is full of reminders of his life. In the shed sits the one-horse shay the general used when driving to the Worcester courthouse. The study still features the desk and chair at which General Ward would have conducted the business of war. In this bedroom hangs the general's cloak and a U.S. Revolution hat. And in this hallway, the general's snowshoes and broom, and in the kitchen, a winnowing sieve, all made by local American Indians. General Ward's exact involvement as a trustee of the Hassanamisco Indians remains unclear, but objects like this provide a way to reconstruct the historical narrative, which has often taken a back seat to the Revolutionary War and the general's life. The Ward family preserved these objects for generations, providing current scholars the opportunity to explore the period in which General Ward played such a notable part. Centuries after the nation was born, the extraordinary resources of Artemas Ward's house and possessions are helping to recreate that moment of possibility and experiment, and helping us to know General Ward, his family, his neighbors, and the broad community of New England in a deeper, richly detailed context.